We have the pleasure of joining us on the line from the William & Mary football team, junior defensive lineman Carl Fowler and junior defensive back Michael Jackson. Gentlemen, first off, let's begin with the COVID-19 crisis. How have you been during the pandemic, your family, and your inner circle around you these past few months? We'll begin with you, Carl.
Yeah, sure. So it's obviously been an adjustment period, but we are fully into the swing of things. I've been lucky enough to be able to work out at home. I've got a squat rack in the garage, so I've been able to get after the weights there. And beyond that, just trying to stay busy, figure out things to do, keep my sister in line while my parents are trying to work, all that kind of stuff.
And Michael, how have you been and your closest family and friends been holding up during this time?
Yeah, I've been doing really well. Just looking after loved ones, just making sure my aunt's all good. I've been busy with a couple of classes and an internship, but been trying to work out, maintain. So,
Carl, talk about what has been the toughest part during this pandemic as a football player, especially not having spring football and not being together with your team really during this off season.
Sure. Yeah. So we actually were fortunate enough. We were one of the few teams that got our spring football in. So we got our practices in, which I think put us at least initially ahead of where a lot of other teams were. But when you spend as much time around a group of guys as we do, and then all of a sudden that's taken away from you, it's definitely something you miss. And we're going on 3-4 months now without being with the team, without working out with the team, hanging out with the guys. And the summer is a really great time to get together and hang out and really create that team bonding organically. And missing out on that definitely stinks.
And Michael, what do you think has been the toughest part for you? And what type of workouts or creative ways have you had to do to stay in shape during this off season?
well, I mean, being a DB, like the biggest thing you worry about is your feet. And so as long as there's grass in the field, I'm good with that. But I think one of the biggest things Carl talked about is just like being out there on the field with your guys, because there's a lot of guys learn much better, like seeing things happen. And it's only so much you can get from X's and O's on Zoom. So.
Well, hopefully we'll have a better idea of the future in regards to football here in the next few weeks. Gentlemen, let's now talk about an issue that also continues to plague our country with the social injustice. And you two took initiative to combat this back on June 8th by leading a 20-mile peaceful march that started in Raleigh and ended in Durham. Carl, how did the idea for the March Against Injustice come about?
Yeah, so it was primarily born out of knowing that I, as a white person, need to take my own initiative, kind of like you said, and create on my own rather than just simply supporting things that my Black friends, associates, whatever, just people in the community had organized already. So it really started with a text to Mike. And I was like, do you think this is a good idea, blah, blah, blah. And Mike immediately goes, shut up, I'll come down there and I'll do it with you. And less than a week later, we've got 70-something people marching with us. We've raised $20,000. So I can't say that we had any idea of what it was going to become. But it was born out of, like I said, just knowing that we need to take action. We as white people need to take action in a way that is different from just simply showing support, standing in solidarity, that sort of thing.
And Mike, what were the goals for the march? And were you surprised by the turnout and the money you were able to raise that went to the Equal Injustice Initiative?
Yeah, I mean, surprise doesn't even begin to describe what me and Carl were, because like we said in the beginning, like we really thought it would just be him and I kind of going with it. Maybe his dad could walk some of it. But for us to end up with over 100 people walking with us at one point and raising over $20,000, it was kind of like, it blew our minds to see like the level of support that we had. And it was really amazing.
Carl, what was the most rewarding part of the experience, and what message do you think it sent?
Most rewarding, I think, just seeing people come together. There were a lot of people that we didn't know there that, heard about the march one way or another and just showed up and, walked for 7 hours. And while that is not action in and of itself, seeing people commit to something like that was really inspiring, I think. So as far as the message that I think it's sent, just being out there in the public eye, so quite literally in the streets, but then also the news coverage that we got, people see the kind of unity that we showed that day. And I think that's important is, wow, we've got our demands of the police, and then we've got the money that we raised for EJI. We also were in the public eye, and we're displaying not just unity, but also just the collective outcry against the things that we're seeing, the atrocities that we're seeing against Black people in America. So I think that beyond everything else, just a group of people, a lot of whom didn't know each other, some people didn't know anyone there, just showing up and committing to what was, quite a haul in the pursuit of justice.
Yep, indeed. And Michael, there was a police presence assisting everyone during your march, and your group provided a list of demands to the department at the end. And how do you feel like that positive interaction and dialogue could lead to change?
Well, I thought it was really important, our whole protest being peaceful. That was something I harped on, Carl, like ever since the beginning. And it was something that not only that the police were surprised with, but we were surprised with their response. So towards the end, like when we got to Raleigh, the police was like, as long as everything's peaceful. And we're like, no, that's our entire goal. Like, we're just trying to talk and have a conversation and hope that these things can enact. And so it was kind of surprised for both sides to see the response, but it was heartwarming, and it was well to see that it was very good to see that it was received well. So,
Carl, how can you use your platform as a student athlete to help spur change against racial injustice?
Sure. So it starts on campus. We talk about systemic racism. Well, what are those actual systems that we're talking about? One of them exists in higher education. And as a football player, as a team captain, as a law student, like that's, not to pat myself on the back, that's a platform on William and Mary's campus. And there are systems of oppression on every college campus. And we start there and we expand out into the Williamsburg community, into the state of Virginia, and then in my own community in Durham and North Carolina. And then it just gets bigger and bigger. You start talking about national level, and then you look at global oppression. Like the plight of the oppressed is inextricably linked across the globe. So, we need to focus small in terms of creating change small, but we also have to understand that these are not isolated incidents just in time or in location. So in terms of using my platform, just being continually involved in the fight. And that doesn't look like just showing up to a protest here and there. That's continuous action, meetings, pushing for action, continuously showing support of my Black teammates and also Black people that I don't know, because the value in a Black person's life isn't because I know them. It has nothing to do with me at all. It has everything to do with them.
Very well said. Michael, do you plan to involve your teammates and other students at William and Mary in your cause?
Yeah, 100%. That's something me and Carl have been working together on every day, thinking about it, just how we could bring this back to William and Mary and involve our teammates. And that's more than just speaking to them or like trying to educate them. It's about getting each other like involved and taking it past maybe just like an action. So as well, like as much as the march was a big statement, there are a lot more things that we could do in their daily lives that just fight injustice, whether that's calling out family members that are saying something racially insensitive or just not being educated on the right things. And a lot of our teammates being a part of the white community have that power to reach people that I necessarily can't reach. So definitely that's a whole part of the plan.
And Carl, how would you like to see the movement go forward from here? And what plans do you have for the future?
Yeah, so like Mike said, we've been, trying to figure out how we can continue this, whether we're on campus in the fall or not. Hopefully we are, because it'll be easier to organize there. But moving forward, like I said, this is a continuous fight. It won't be a week or a month or even a year. This is decades of work. It has been, and it will continue to be. So for myself personally, I'm headed to law school in the fall, and I hope that after a professional football career, I have the opportunity to defend people who have been wrongly accused of crimes, defend people who are facing capital punishment, defend people who are facing the racial injustice in what we so ironically call the criminal justice system. So that's my individual and personal work. But, right now and also collectively, it's about organizing, it's about mobilizing, and it's about pushing for change.
And Mike, same question for you. How would you like to see this movement continue to going forward from here, and what plans do you have for the future?
Yeah, I think similar to what Carl said, I don't want to see it just be like this movement be a fad that people hop on for a week or two to try to understand what it is to be Black in America. But it's something that I want to see incorporated into a lot of lifestyles, to not just for Black African American, but just to fight inequality on all like spectrums that we face. And involvedness into my everyday life. That's the same way I have been. Like this isn't something that just became a worry of mine a month ago. This has been something I've been taught was a worry of mine since I was born. It's been something I've had to be conscious of and cognizant of for forever. So in terms of it's just going to go for me, just educating others in terms of like treating people better.
Absolutely. And gentlemen, let's wrap up today's interview. Let's talk a little bit about football here. Carl, you kind of mentioned, hopefully in the fall we'll see some football out on the field. But you, as you mentioned, being a team captain, you had a coaching transition during your career at William and Mary, and you're going into your second year with Coach Mike London. And just talk about the responsibilities you feel you hold being a captain, going through, kind of a second year head coach in the middle of a pandemic where you guys haven't been around each other quite a bit. Just talk about your role in that regard.
Sure. Yeah. So the first thing I will say is Coach London has not had an easy start at William and Mary. And you go back to basically when he was hired, it was just one thing after another. And he, I think, has done a really incredible job in terms of trying to keep the team together, trying to keep us focused on what matters. And right now that's, at some point, guys, we're going to play football, and that's kind of what we're here to do. And, whether that's in the fall or whenever that may be, whatever it looks like, Coach London's doing his best. He's meeting with the captains. We have a leadership council that was also elected by the team. He meets with us, team meetings, and then we have, offensive, defensive position meetings as well, just in terms of trying to get guys together, even if it's just watching film, through Zoom. So as far as my responsibilities in all of this, I think the one thing I've tried to keep in mind is that my teammates voted for me as a captain because of who I was before I was elected as a captain. And while, maybe I'm thrust into the public eye a little bit more, I don't need to change my behavior. My teammates voted for me before I was a captain for a reason. And I don't need to take on some persona or whatever. I'll still be a defensive lineman. I'll still be in that room goofing off with my guys and still getting after it. So I think that the important thing to consider is while there's added responsibility in terms of reminding guys when meetings are, reminding guys when lifts are, things like that, it's really not much more in terms of accountability, that sort of thing. We want to play football, and whatever it takes for us to get there and be successful is what we're going to do.
And Michael, some of your goals and expectations maybe you have set for yourself heading into this year, and also what you expect from the team once things kind of get going.
Well, yeah, definitely on the whole team aspect, I expect this to be a big season for us. Like you said, it's been a weird couple of years just with transitioning with Coach London coming in. But now that we have our culture, our foundation, laid down, and we see the plan and the blueprint, it's time to get after it. So, God bearing that we did out there this fall, I think it's going to be a big season for us out there. And me personally, I'm just trying to help my teammates. I'm just trying to make an impact and lead the young ones. Just like how Carl was saying, this is about a lot more than just being a leader. You're a teammate at the end of the day. So whether it's helping someone learn the playbook or just trying to help somebody on the field, that's what it's about. It's brothers help brothers.
Absolutely. Well, Carl and Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Great work you did with the march. Congratulations on all that success. And hopefully we'll be seeing you two on the field here, hopefully in the fall.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.